I was halfway through a bowl of reheated chili when every phone in the house went off at once. Not just mine on the counter, the old iPad in the drawer, my work phone in the bedroom. Even the TV switched out of the game and flashed to a blue screen with that scratchy tone. It was the kind of tone you only hear for tornadoes or missing kids. Except this one didn't sound local. It sounded federal. I looked at the time, 6:14 p.m. Tuesday, early October. Suburban Ohio. 3 cul-de-sacs and a Walmart. Nothing ever happens here. The TV text was big and plain. Emergency alert, system national public safety message shelter in place. Do not leave your home. This is not a test. I froze with the spoon in my hand. Behind the text, the announcer had that calm, practiced voice, but it kept clipping, like too many feeds were going out at once. This is the emergency alert system. A national shelter-in-place order has been issued. Remain indoors. Secure all doors and windows. Do not approach individuals exhibiting disorientation, violent behavior, or unresponsiveness. Await further instructions. I grabbed my phone. Same thing there. Same wording. Do not leave your home. I turned the volume up. Outside, I could hear other houses reacting, doors opening, someone yelling, "What the hell?" across the street, a dog barking nonstop. A pickup on the corner revved like someone was about to take off. Typical. Tell Americans to stay inside, and first instinct is to go look. I walked to the front window and pulled the blinds with 2 fingers. Our street looked normal, but tense. Porch lights were popping on one by one. Mrs. Adler next door was on her porch in a robe, holding her little white dog like it was a baby. Across from her, Mark, 3 houses down, ex-Army, always in camo shorts, was already wheeling his trash can back even though trash day was over. He was scanning the street like it was Fallujah. My phone buzzed again. Emergency alert. Local. If you are already home, stay home. If you are in a public place, seek immediate shelter in the nearest building. Do not attempt to travel. Do not pick up stranded individuals. What? I opened the back door to listen better. Cool air, smell of wet leaves. The neighborhood backed onto a tree line in the small drainage creek. Usually you can hear kids there. Not today. It felt like the whole suburb was holding its breath. Then sirens. Not the usual ambulance siren heading to the hospital. This was the city's long, wailing civil defense siren, the one they test sometimes in July. It started downtown, then another closer, then another. Layered. Okay, so it was real. I locked the back door and went into practical mode. I'm not a prepper, but I'm not stupid. I checked the deadbolt on the front, slid the security latch, and went to the garage to hit the manual lock. My brain was trying to choose a scenario: chemical spill, prison break, some protest gone wrong. But the alert hadn't said anything about contamination. It said, do not approach individuals exhibiting disorientation. So, people were the problem. I turned the TV to a news channel. They weren't ready either. The anchor was mid-sentence about a multi-state communications event, and they cut to a phone interview with someone from Homeland who was clearly reading. Words like rapid onset, neurological disturbance, isolated incidents, containment priority. No pictures, no on-the-ground footage. If this were normal, they'd be showing video. Somebody didn't want video. Headlights swept across my living room. I looked out again. That was when I saw the first dumb move of the night. The Cooper family across the street, dad, mom, teenage son, were loading their SUV, not just jumping in, actually loading it. Suitcases. A cooler. Like they thought they were going to outrun a national alert. I opened my door. Hey, I called. They said stay home. Mr. Cooper looked up, unsettled. Yeah, I heard it, he said. We're going to my brother's. He's out in the country. Dude, they said don't travel. It's probably nothing, he said, and waved me off. That was America for you. We hear this is not a test, and we go, it's probably nothing. He put the cooler in the back. His kid, Tyler, was carrying a game console like that was the most important thing. Mrs. Cooper was on the phone with someone, maybe the brother. Then another alert, louder this time, cut through everyone's conversations. Appeared emergency alert. Remain inside. Lock doors. Avoid contact with unknown persons. Report aggressive behavior to 911. Repeat. Do not leave your home. Even Mrs. Adler clutched her dog tighter. Cooper, I called again. They repeated it. He hesitated. You could see the fight in him. Protect the family. versus obey the voice. Then from the tree line behind the houses, something screamed. Not a fox, not a coyote. You live long enough near woods, you learn those sounds. This was human, but wrong. Like somebody waking up in the middle of surgery. High, wet, full of air, one pitch too long. Everyone on the street turned. The tree line moved. Branches shook like something big had run through them at shoulder height. Leaves rained down. Then another scream, closer, followed by a hard stumbling crash like someone fell and didn't even care they fell. "Inside!" I shouted, more to myself than anyone. I slammed my door and threw the second deadbolt, the one I never used. I ran to the window beside the door and watched through the slit. The Coopers froze by their SUV. The dad was shielding his wife. The kid was looking at the trees with his mouth open. From the gap between the two backyards, the place where the mowing truck usually squeezes through, a man staggered out. At least I think it was a man. He was in hospital scrubs, light blue top, darker blue pants, and he was barefoot. No coat, no bag, no car. Just there. Not from our street. Not from our town, as far as I knew. He was wet, like he'd just crawled out of the creek. His skin was gray pale in the streetlights, his hair plastered to his forehead. His arms hung too loose. He took 3 unsteady steps toward the Coopers, then locked onto them like radar. Mrs. Cooper screamed. "Sir? Sir! Are you okay?" The alert's wording flashed through my head. Do not approach individuals exhibiting disorientation, violent behavior, or unresponsiveness. Mr. Cooper held up a hand. "Hey man, you can't." The man didn't answer. He didn't slow down. He just kept coming, mouth open like he was trying to breathe but forgetting how. Then he sped up. It was like someone else took over his legs. 1 second he was wobbling. The next he was in a full, ugly sprint. Not athlete fast, chaotic fast, elbows wide, body too loose, like he didn't care if he broke anything on the way. "Get in the car!" Mrs. Cooper yelled. They weren't fast enough. The man hit Mr. Cooper square in the chest, and they both went down hard behind the SUV. Out of my line of sight. Mrs. Cooper shrieked. The kid dropped the console. I heard a heavy thud, then another scream, this one gurgling, the kind of sound you only hear once before your brain labels it "this is bad." I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. Busy. 911 was busy. That was worse than the screaming. Outside, the dog next door went ballistic. Mrs. Adler ran inside, dragging it. I went to the hall closet, pulled out the aluminum bat I still had from college softball, and set it by the door. I don't own a gun. Most days I don't need one. Suddenly, I needed one. The TV switched again, this time to our governor. Behind him, the state flag, the U.S. flag. 2 people talking into phones in the background. "This is Governor Matthews. Stay in your homes. We are experiencing a coordinated series of medical emergencies in multiple counties. Law enforcement and National Guard units have been activated. Do not attempt to render aid in the street. Do not pick up individuals from hospitals, clinics, or accident scenes. If you are in a safe structure, remain there." As he talked, I heard pounding. Not on my door. On the Coopers. I peeked again. The barefoot man in scrubs was up. His face was smeared with something dark. He was at the Cooper's front door, slamming his shoulder into it over and over. Not even trying the handle, just brute force. Behind him, on the driveway, Mr. Cooper was on the ground, not moving. Mrs. Cooper had crawled behind the SUV, clutching her son. She was whispering something, probably praying. The man in scrubs kept hitting the door. No words, no demands, just impact. My first instinct was to go help. My second instinct was to remember the alert. Do not leave your home. That was the moment it stopped feeling like a weird evening and started feeling like day one. Because I realized, whatever was happening, this guy wasn't scared. He wasn't asking for help. He was trying to get in. Across the street, the motion sensor light on the Cooper's porch flicked on and off because of the movement. Every time it came on, I could see more detail on the man's face. His eyes were wide and glassy. His lips were torn on one side. His right arm didn't look like it was bending right, but he didn't care. He wasn't registering pain. He hit the door again. And then another figure came out of the tree line. This one was a woman in a hospital gown. The back flapped open, and she was barefoot too, dirty feet, knees scraped. Her head tilted like it was too heavy. She saw the first man, saw the door, and angled toward the house like she was tracking the same signal. Two of them. I backed away from my own door. The governor kept talking, voice steady. We are asking for your patience as emergency services respond to high call volumes. Please do not. My TV cut to black for half a second. Then a red banner appeared. You Argent Federal Updata remain indoors lock. All entry points do not signal or draw attention to your location. Don't signal. So lights, sound, shouting, all bad. I turned off my porch light with the app. I killed the living room lamp. The house went dim, just the TV glow. I could still hear the pounding across the street, getting duller as the door held. In the distance, not on our street, but not far, I heard another scream, then two car alarms overlapping, then what sounded like glass. It wasn't just here. Down the block, I saw Mark, the ex-army guy, step out with a rifle. He stayed on his porch, not stupid enough to walk into the open, but he was watching. He looked at my house. I raised a hand. He nodded once like, stay put. I went to the back of the house and checked the sliding door. Locked. The small bathroom window, locked. Basement, bulkhead was latched. My phone buzzed again. Not an alert. A text from my sister in Columbus. Are you home? They blocked the freeway. APPL, acting crazy. Mom can't reach you. I texted back, home, staying. Lock up. Don't let anyone in. Before I could hit send, something hit my front door. Not hard. Not like the man across the street. More like a testing knock. Dull and wrong. Like someone didn't know how to use their hand. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks again, slower. I stared at the door. I hadn't turned off the porch camera feed. I pulled it up on my phone. The angle showed only the top half of my porch, but I could see a shape just on the edge, standing too close to be a neighbor being polite. Whoever it was didn't ring the bell. They just knocked again. Same rhythm, same soft but heavy sound. I muted the TV. My house went dead quiet. Outside, across the street, the pounding on the Cooper's door was still going. The sirens in town were still going. Somewhere farther off, more voices were screaming. And on my porch, in perfect time with none of it, something kept knocking like it was waiting to see if I was dumb enough to open. I didn't breathe for the first 5 seconds of that knocking. 3 dull knocks. Pause. 3 dull knocks. Not loud enough to be police. Not frantic enough to be a neighbor begging. It sounded experimental, like someone testing the strength of the wood. Or testing me. I stayed where I was, a few feet back from the door, the aluminum bat in my hand. The porch camera feed on my phone showed a shoulder, wet fabric, a strip of neck. Whoever it was standing too close to the door for the camera to catch their face. Go away, I whispered, even though I knew they couldn't hear me. And even if they could, I wasn't supposed to talk. The alert said, don't signal. The knocking stopped. I waited. Nothing. I checked the side window again. Across the street, chaos hadn't moved much, which was the scary part. The man in scrubs and the woman in the gown were still hammering the Cooper's front door like they were following a script. Mrs. Cooper and the kid hadn't made a break for it. Either they were hiding deeper inside or... I didn't let my brain finish that. Down the block, Mark was still on his porch with the rifle, scanning like a sentry. He hadn't fired. Smart. A gunshot right now would be like ringing a dinner bell. My phone buzzed with another text. Sister again. They said people from hospitals are walking out. Some route, naked. WTF is going on. I typed, lock doors, stay away from windows, don't help anybody. I mean it. I hit send. Something brushed my front door. Not knocking, sliding. Like skin or fabric, dragged low. Then a soft thud against the bottom panel. Then nothing. Whoever was out there had moved down. My porch camera didn't angle that low. I backed up again and mentally walked the house. Front door, locked, deadbolted. Back slider, locked. Garage, manual latch on. Basement bulkhead, latched from inside. Windows, all single locks. But I'd never thought about what happens if something throws its whole weight into one. I turned the TV sound back up, low. The national feed was messy now. Split screens, call-ins, a map of the Midwest and Northeast, with red zones that were growing by the minute. They finally said a word. Multiple facilities reporting patient egress, including trauma wards, long-term care, and psychiatric units. Patient egress. They didn't want to say patients are getting up and walking out in the middle of treatment. They also didn't want to say some of them weren't supposed to be walking. The doctor they had on the phone, some CDC guy, kept saying hyper-agitated state and impaired pain response. He said it like he was reading from something brand new. I switched to local. Local finally had footage. Someone must have shot it on a phone before the do not signal instruction went out. It was shaky video of a hospital entrance. I recognized it, actually. St. Mary's off Route 17, with staff trying to hold the main doors closed as a crowd of patients pressed from the inside, not marching, pressing, foreheads and shoulders and hands smearing the glass. One guy in a hospital bracelet was biting the doorframe like he thought he could chew through it. A nurse was screaming at someone to call security. A man in a suit was shouting, "Lock it! Lock it!" like that was going to fix whatever this was. The anchor said, "We are being told to tell viewers to stay off the roads. Do not pick up people on foot." The state patrol is... The power flickered. Just one flicker. TV went black, then came right back. My heart jumped into my throat. I looked at the ceiling. "Don't do that," I said to no one. Outside, the street was losing discipline. A car 2 houses down tried to pull out and leave. As soon as the headlights washed over the street, 3 shapes in gowns, I hadn't even seen them arrive, turned toward it like moths. The driver saw them and floored it, swerving around the circle and out. The shapes didn't chase. They just noted it, then went back to the houses. So, light, X, attention, sound dot. I stood there, thinking I had my perimeter handled. And then I remembered something that almost made me swear out loud. The upstairs bathroom window. I'd left it cracked that morning. I grabbed the bat and headed for the stairs, moving slow, listening for floor creaks that weren't mine. My house was split level, not that big, so it didn't take long. I checked the guest room, empty. Checked my bedroom, empty. Bathroom, the window was still cracked above the tub. It wasn't big enough for a full-grown man to crawl through easily. But you know what? I wasn't interested in testing that. I locked it, pulled the shade. As I did, I heard something from the backyard. Not at the door, lower, metal on metal, the bulkhead. I went to the back window and lifted just a bit of the blind. The yard was dark except for the neighbor's security light bleeding over the fence. The bulkhead doors, the slanted metal doors that led down to the basement steps, were sitting where I'd left them. But something was at the fence. Movement. At first I thought it was my neighbor's kid's bike toppled over, but then it straightened, wobbly, and turned its head. A woman in a hospital gown. Short hair, legs muddy to the knees. She had come through the drainage ditch behind the yards and was testing the fence boards with both hands like a raccoon. She pushed. The board bowed. She pushed again. Harder, face flat, no expression. Her shoulder scraped on the wood and she didn't even look at it. No pain response. If she pushed one more time, she was going to pop the board. I backed away from the window. My house wasn't a fortress. It was a middle-income suburban box. It was built to keep weather out, not determined people. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mom. I almost didn't pick up. But I did, because if I didn't, she was going to keep calling, and that was more noise than a short call. I hit accept and whispered, "Mom, you need to stay inside. Where are you?" She said, voice already high. TV noise on her end, too. "Your sister said something about, 'I'm home.' Door's locked. You do the same. Do not answer the door tonight." People were on the street, she said. 2 of them were in pajamas. "Your father said maybe they needed help." "No," I said, sharper than I meant. "No, Mom. Don't help anyone outside. Not tonight. This is bad." "What is it? Is it that virus?" "I don't know. They're not saying. Just stay dark." "Don't." My front door rattled. Not a knock, a rattle. The handle turned and shook like someone finally found it. I froze mid-sentence. On the porch camera, I saw a hand now. Gray fingers, scraped knuckles, hospital wristband. It turned the handle, found the deadbolt, and then the arm pulled back. "Mom, I'll call you back," I whispered, and hung up. The bang that followed shook the whole door. The person outside had stopped experimenting and gone straight to force. Shoulder in, same rhythm as the ones at the Coopers. I grabbed the bat and held it ready. If the door frame splintered, I was going to have to swing for real, not like in a movie. Swing to break bones, swing to stop. Another bang. The deadbolt held, but the screws creaked. I looked at the window again. Mark down the street had seen. He had the rifle halfway up, eyes narrowed like he was considering whether he could take the shot from his porch to my porch without hitting me, in the dark, with things moving between us. I shook my head at him through the glass. Don't. You shoot. The whole block comes. He lowered it, jaw tight. I needed to do something else. Reinforce the door. I scanned the living room. Couch, too low. TV stand, too heavy and too slow. Dining chair, maybe. I grabbed the heaviest dining chair and wedged it under the handle, angled into the floor. It wasn't perfect, but it spread the impact. Next hit came, harder. The door jumped but didn't open. Outside, across the street, wood finally gave way. I heard it even through my walls. A hollow crack and a woman's scream as the Cooper's door burst inward. The two hospital people disappeared inside their house. I swallowed. That was it for them. I wanted to believe they were going to be okay, but the noise that came after was fast and wet and panicked, and then cut off. After that, only dull thuds from inside, like drawers being pulled, like bodies bumping walls. My living room suddenly felt too bright. I turned the TV down to the lowest I could hear. I shut the kitchen light. I let the house fall into that dusk dark. My eyes adjusted. The person at my door, I was calling it a person just so I didn't spiral, hit it again and again. Their breaths were loud now, picking up on my porch cam mic, wet, irregular. They weren't yelling or demanding or asking for help, just breathing and hitting. I needed more info. I needed to know if this was only our street, our town, or bigger. I grabbed my laptop off the coffee table and opened it, screen dim, Wi-Fi on. The news sites were loading slow. Social media was worse. Tons of uploads, then usernames going dead mid-thread. But I could see enough to know we weren't special. People walking out of rehab centers. People leaving hospital beds. Patients reanimated their word, not mine, after cardiac arrest. Cops overwhelmed downtown. Someone saying the National Guard blocked I-71 south of us. Someone else posting a grainy video of a group of 4 in scrubs pounding on a gas station door, while people inside hid. Every few posts, stay inside. They follow light and sound. One video made me stop. It was from someone in a high-rise downtown, filming the street below. A police cruiser had stopped to try to help someone, and the person had climbed right into the open door and started attacking the officer. The other officer got out to help, and 2 more hospital-gowned people came from the sidewalk and dragged the second officer down. The filmer was whispering, "Oh my God, oh my God," and then the video just ended. No police to call, no paramedics to call, no 911 to call. We were on our own. Another bang on the door. Then a new sound, a second set of footsteps on my porch. No, I looked at the camera. The first one, a man, mid-40s maybe, face slack, soaked shirt, was joined by a second one in a thin patient gown. They didn't look at each other. They didn't coordinate. They just both started hitting the same door because that's where the target was. The chair under the handle jumped. I needed to thin them out, scare them off without sound. How? I thought about the garage. My garage had a side door, metal solid, opening outward. It faced the little strip of grass between my house and the neighbors. If I opened it, I could maybe come around, smack one of them in the head with the bat, and get back inside before they reoriented. But that was exactly what the alert said not to do, and if there were more in the side yard, I'd be stuck out there. I stayed put. My phone buzzed again, but not with a text, with a new emergency alert. I opened it. Federal Incident Update. Region 3 movement of infected individuals has been observed toward lighted and occupied structures. Some are exhibiting coordinated movement toward previously visited locations, hospitals, residences, vehicles. Remain sheltered. Do not attempt to relocate at this time. If your structure is being actively breached and you cannot secure it, relocate to an interior room with a solid core door and no windows. Do not use firearms unless absolutely necessary. Infected. They finally said it. I looked at my front door. It was being actively breached. I did a fast inventory of interior rooms. Hall bathroom, too small, window. Laundry room, window. Basement, no windows, but also a bulkhead those things could eventually figure out. Bedroom, 1 window, but I could barricade it. I didn't move yet. I wanted to see if they were actually going to get through. Outside, a shot rang out. I flinched. It was Mark. He'd finally fired. The sound cracked down the street like a whip. The 2 on my porch froze mid-hit, heads snapping toward the source like animals. Down the block, I saw two more shapes in gowns turn from random wandering and start moving toward Mark's house. "Damn it, Mark," I whispered. He fired again. Probably hit one. But that wasn't the point. The point was, every set of ears in a 3-street radius now had a direction. My porch visitors turned back to my door, but now they were more agitated. They hit harder. Wood splintered along the frame. My heart kicked hard. Okay. Interior room, now. I grabbed the bat, grabbed my phone, and started backing toward the hallway. As I passed the kitchen, I heard a different sound from the back. Metal. The bulkhead. I stopped and listened. It came again. A dull, hollow bang from the basement doors, like someone had found the latch and was testing it from the outside. Front being hit. Back being tested. Street getting louder. Lights flickering. This was only the first night. I stepped into the hallway, pulled the bedroom door open, ready to fall back to my last little box of safety, and the front door finally gave with a high, tearing crack. The chair skidded. The deadbolt plate ripped out of the frame. Cold, wet air rushed in. Something heavy stepped over the threshold. I didn't see it, but I heard the wet breathing in my foyer. And from the basement, the bulkhead latch popped. The sound of the bulkhead latch snapping open was louder than any gunshot. Metal hitting concrete, echoing up from the basement like someone had kicked it from underneath. The timing was impossible. Front door breached. Basement latch breaking. 2 points of entry. I'd locked everything, I was sure of it. But locks didn't matter anymore. They weren't trying handles, they were just pushing through. I stood frozen in the hallway, staring toward the front. One shadow moved in the dim light, spilling from the porch. Broad shoulders, uneven posture, clothes soaked. The man in scrubs. He stepped inside like the door meant nothing, head tilted down, arms loose at his sides. He wasn't limping. He wasn't tired. He was wrong, all movement, no hesitation. I backed into my bedroom and shut the door silently. No click, just pressure. I jammed my shoulder against it and grabbed the nearest thing heavy, the nightstand. I tipped it on its side and wedged it under the handle. Then the dresser. Drawer handles scraped against the floor as I pushed it across. My room was small, so it didn't take long before I'd turned it into a choke point, breathing too fast. I tried to slow it. Something hit the wall outside the hallway, not directly against my door, but close. Then again, harder. A second sound from below. The hollow thuds of feet on basement steps. 2 different directions. They were inside. I slid down to the floor behind the bed. Phone in one hand, bat in the other. The glow from the screen was the only light. 911 was still useless. Busy signal. I switched to messages. My sister, my mom, both unread. I texted fast. "They're in the house. Stay off your phones. Don't call. Hide." Then I killed the screen light. Outside my door, something shuffled along the hallway carpet. Not footsteps. Not that rhythmic heel-to-toe sound. More like dragging, like bare feet on fabric. It stopped right outside my room. The wood creaked. Then came a sound I'll never forget. Slow, wet breathing through the crack under the door. The thing was crouched, sniffing. The alert's wording looped in my brain. Do not signal or draw attention to your location. So I didn't move. Not 1 inch. The air felt thick. My pulse was loud enough to give me away. A minute passed. Maybe 2. Then the breathing faded, shuffling away. I heard the floorboards creak toward the living room again. Then silence. For a second, I thought maybe it had gone back outside. But the basement steps creaked again. Different weight, softer. Then a hollow thump as something bumped into the water heater. I needed to see. I crawled to the corner and peeked through the slit between the blinds. Outside, Mark's house was chaos. His porch light was shattered. The front window was broken. I could see movement inside, flashes of light, muzzle bursts. He was firing inside his own house now. Each shot echoed like thunder down the street. Every time, I saw more movement beyond him, shapes coming out of yards, moving toward the sound. At least 8 or 9, all in torn clothing or hospital gowns. Some crawling, some upright. None of them looked coordinated, but all of them moved in the same general direction. Noise. And the Cooper's house? Pitch black. No motion. Just that one SUV still sitting in the driveway with the driver's door open and one leg visible under it, motionless. I pulled back from the window and turned my head. The hallway was dark. No movement. Then a soft clatter from the living room, something small hitting tile. Maybe the picture frame I'd left near the entryway. Then a sound like furniture shifting, a grunt of weight. They were searching. The realization hit hard. They weren't just wandering anymore. They were looking. The alert had mentioned coordinated movement toward previously visited locations. They were remembering. The Scrubs guy had come straight here from the woods. Maybe he'd been one of the first responders at the hospital. Maybe he remembered my house from something earlier. Whatever it was, he wasn't random. The floor creaked again, closer. Then the bedroom door shook, a low thump as something brushed it. Another, then harder. The dresser moved half an inch. I gripped the bat tighter, palms slick. The door frame moaned under pressure. I didn't know how much longer it would hold. And then, salvation, or maybe the opposite. A blinding white light flooded through my window. For a split second, I thought it was sunrise, but no, it was a spotlight, sweeping from the street. I risked another look through the blinds. 2 Humvees were coming down our cul-de-sac. National Guard markings, roof lights strobing white instead of red. 4 soldiers on foot, weapons raised, shouting commands I couldn't make out through the walls. Mark must have called it in before he went dark. The pounding on my door stopped. The figure outside froze like a deer in headlights, head snapping toward the light. I heard it stumble down the hall and out the front, fast, too fast. Gunfire erupted. Controlled bursts, not panicked. I heard one soldier yell, "Contact front." 2 infected down. Another voice, "Clear the driveway, secure the houses." I wanted to run out, yell that I was alive, but the alert flashed through my mind again. Do not signal. Instead, I waited, listening. More gunfire. Screams, not from soldiers, from things. Then radio chatter. Heavy boots. Finally, someone pounded on my door. A normal rhythmic knock. National Guard. Anyone inside? My throat tightened. Every survival instinct said don't open it, but the voice was calm, commanding. I moved the dresser an inch and called out, "Here, I'm in here. Stay put. We're clearing the area." "Okay," I shouted back. Footsteps thudded through my living room. Muffled orders. Then a different tone in one soldier's voice. Tension. "Sir, we've got one in the basement. Moving." Gunshots, close and deafening. Something heavy fell. Maybe the one that came through the bulkhead. Another order. "Secure. Secure." Then quieter. "Sir, contact neutralized. Civilians accounted for at this address." Accounted for. That meant me. I exhaled for the first time in minutes and pushed the dresser away. I cracked the door open just enough to see the hallway. 2 soldiers in full gear were there, flashlights cutting through the dark. The smell of burned gunpowder and something copper filled the air. "Sir, you alone?" one asked. His face was half covered by a mask, eyes darting to every corner. "Yeah," I said. "Neighbors?" "I think they're gone." He nodded once, talking into his radio. "1 civilian alive, 42 Maple. House secure." Then to me, "Do not leave this room. We're extracting non-contact survivors after perimeter lockdown. You understand?" "Yeah." He looked me up and down. "Any bites? Scratchers?" "No." He stared an extra beat before nodding again. "Good. Sit tight." They moved on toward the back door, checking corners. For a few minutes I sat there on the edge of my bed, listening to their radios crackle. The words were clipped but clear. Containment breach. Patient 0 facility. Secondary spread through EMS transport. Statewide lockdown initiated. That word again. Patient. Not victim. Not attacker. Patient. After maybe 10 minutes, the soldiers regrouped outside. I heard one say, "Convoy's full. Leave him marked for second pickup." Then the engine started. The Humvees rolled out. Tires crackled over broken glass. Engines fading into the distance. Silence again. I went to the living room window and watched them leave the subdivision. They didn't stop for anyone else. Didn't go into the other houses. Didn't check marks. Just left. That's when I saw why. At the end of the street, in the spill of their headlights, a small crowd was forming. Not a mob. Just 5 or 6 shapes walking slowly from the highway exit toward the houses. More patience. And the Humvees didn't even slow down. They weren't rescuing. They were sweeping. I stepped back from the window, heart hammering again. Outside, the night was quiet except for the distant growl of engines heading east and the faint hum of the sirens that had never stopped since sunset. The lights in my house flickered again, then went out completely this time. Pitch black. No more TV, no more hum of the fridge. Just the ticking of the cooling pipes. And in that silence, I heard something else. A soft scraping sound from inside the air vent above the hallway. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails on metal. I looked up. The vent was moving. Someone, or something, was inside the ductwork. The scraping inside the vent stopped as soon as the power died. No hum of electricity, no fridge buzz, no streetlights bleeding through the blinds. Just black. The kind of black that eats your outline and makes you question if your eyes are open. I didn't move for almost a full minute. My breath felt like noise. Then a faint clang came from the duct again, not crawling this time, shifting, like something repositioned itself and waited. My flashlight was across the room in my backpack. The thought of turning it on made my stomach knot. Light drew them. Every rule tonight said stay dark. I listened harder. There, under the sound of my heartbeat, a slow trickle of something wet hitting the vent cover above the hallway. Drip. Drip. Metallic smell followed seconds later. Blood. I moved to the edge of the bedroom and peeked through the cracked door. The hall was a narrow silhouette outlined by faint moonlight, bleeding through the front window. I could barely see the vent grill. A dark streak ran down from it. I backed up, thinking. If one of them had crawled into the ducts, it had to come from the basement. My house's furnace ducts all connected there, which meant the bulkhead breach, the one the soldiers had neutralized, wasn't fully secure. They'd missed one. Another soft sound from below, a low, wet thump. Then two more. The thing in the vent moved again, slower now, like it was tracking vibration through the metal. I gripped the bat tighter. If it came through, I'd only get one clean swing before it reached me. Then, bang, not inside the house. Outside, distant, toward the highway. Another explosion followed, brighter this time, orange reflection flickering through the blinds, then a wave of gunfire and faint echoing voices. The war zone had reached the edge of town. I used the noise as cover. I went to the kitchen, moving fast but silent. I needed light, not to signal, but to see. I grabbed the smallest flashlight I owned from the junk drawer and taped the lens with 2 layers of electrical tape, leaving a thin slit so it would beam narrow. Then I opened the basement door. Cold air rose up immediately. It smelled like earth and rot. I aimed the slit light down. The stairs were clear, but there was a wet footprint halfway up, barefoot, adult size, leading upward. The beam caught something glistening near the bottom, a handprint smeared on the railing dark brown red. "Okay," I whispered. "You're not trapped. You're just being hunted in your own house." The voice sounded foreign, like someone else saying it. I descended slowly, one step at a time, the bat raised. Halfway down, I heard breathing again, not steady, raspy, off rhythm. It echoed weird in the small space, like more than one person trying to sync breaths and failing. The flashlight beam caught a shape by the furnace. For a second, my brain refused to label it as human. It was too twisted, legs bent wrong, torso stretched. Then the head turned toward me, and I saw what was left of the hospital gown. She was the one from the fence. Her eyes reflected white in the beam, like an animal's. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then, without warning, she sprinted. Not graceful, just fast, smashing into the shelves on the way. I swung the bat as hard as I could. It connected with a crunch that shot pain up my arms. The woman collapsed halfway up the stairs, twitching. I didn't wait to check if she was done. I ran back up, slammed the basement door, and jammed the refrigerator against it. Something below started thrashing. Hard. The house vibrated under each hit. The fridge jumped half an inch. I leaned my full weight against it, yelling from sheer effort. Then, finally, silence. My ears rang. My arms trembled. I held the bat like a cross. 5 minutes passed. 10. No more movement. I risked turning on the flashlight again. The vent above the hallway had stopped dripping. Whatever had been up there was either dead or waiting. Then, from outside, came the low drone of engines again. Not Humvees this time. Bigger. Helicopters. I went to the window. Through the thin gap in the blinds, I saw 3 choppers moving low over the suburb, searchlights sweeping. They weren't rescuing anyone. They were spraying something. A fine mist rained down over the street, visible only in the beams, like chemical fog. A new alert buzzed my phone. Even with cell service cutting in and out, Federal Public Health Directive level read aerial dispersal of containment. Aerosol, active. Remain indoors. Do not breathe unfiltered outside air until further notice. I shut the vent lever tight, blocked the edges with towels. The smell of the mist, bitter, synthetic, still seeped in through the gaps. My throat burned. I backed away, coughing. Outside, shapes in the street were collapsing. The ones that had been walking toward the neighborhood froze mid-step, then fell like puppets with their strings cut. The spray worked, or poisoned everything alive. I couldn't tell which. For the first time all night, there was no movement, no sound but the helicopters fading north. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, breathing through my sleeve. The quiet felt fake, like the world had been muted. Hours passed that way, drifting between exhaustion and panic. The night bled into dawn. When I finally dared to open the blinds, the street looked like a war film. Cars still idling with doors open, broken glass everywhere. The Cooper's SUV had frost on the windshield now. A National Guard truck sat abandoned at the end of the road, hatch open. I stepped onto the porch, bat in hand, every nerve screaming that it was a mistake. The air smelled like disinfectant and decay. Dead birds littered the lawn. No voices, no engines, just the wind. At the end of the block, a single radio crackled from inside one of the trucks. I followed it carefully, scanning every window. The voice on it was faint, distorted, looping. This message will repeat every hour. Federal containment perimeter established. Civilian shelters active at pre-designated safe zones. If you are alive and uninfected, stay where you are. Do not travel. Do not seek rescue. Remain in place until further contact. I turned it off. The silence that followed was worse than the loop. I looked back toward my house, the broken door, the blood on the siding, the bodies still twitching faintly in the morning sun. They told us not to leave. They told us not to open the door. They never said what happens when they stop answering the radios. I went back inside and closed what was left of the door, locking it out of habit more than logic. Then I wrote everything down. The times, the sounds, the sequence. Because maybe someday, someone will find this place and need to know what day one looked like. By noon, the air outside was quiet. Too quiet. That's when I heard the first knock again, soft. Familiar 3 dull knocks, pause, 3 dull knocks again. And this time, it came from inside the basement door.